Tim Miller, let me show you what Joe Rogan has to say about the Trump administration's handling of all of this.
Oh, FBI concluded Jeffrey Epstein wasn't running a sex trafficking ring for powerful men. File show. That's the gaslightiest gaslighting I've ever heard in my life.
Again, not to sort of obscure the fact that they've lost the plot, that the survivors have never expressed a partisan utterance since they've sort of mustered the courage to be part of the conversation and calls for accountability, that the issue was kept alive by the right, to its credit, over the last 9 years, and that these performances aren't the FUs to the left that I think Pam Bondi thinks they are. They're an FU to the core of the Trump MAGA base that sent him back there.
Yeah, I think that's right, Nicole. It felt like a very not of the moment performance by Pam Bondi. You called it a performance for an audience of one. I guess that's right. It also kind of felt like the type of typical performance, I don't know, from one of the hearings past about Benghazi or Hillary's emails or something, right? Where you really were just trying to get clips for Fox News primetime. I don't know that this issue calls for that. I think that there are a lot of people, particularly in the MAGA base throughout the country, that want to know who was implicated here. And some of the testimony today obviously had some political valence to it. But like the one example, in addition to the clips you played, that struck me, I was watching, Jerry Nadler was asking her, and he said, how many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating? And her answer to that was to yell at him and say, this is theatrics. She called him washed up. And I just don't know who that plays for. Because that question was not a political question. That wasn't even necessarily about Trump or the cabinet. The question was about who else did this? Obviously, there were other men that were perpetrators here, that were committing sexual crimes against girls. And people want to know who it is. And people want to know if you're investigating it. And just dumping all these files and then calling us names is not sufficient to that task. And so to me, I think that was the big miss for her to do this kind of, yelling and screaming, theatrical performance, on a matter that is so sensitive and that people across party lines in the country care about.
Yeah, you've got 81% of all Americans who believe Donald Trump is hiding something in the Epstein files. You've got as much or more interest in seeing the files released on the right than on the left. You've got no partisan divide in questions about transparency and suspicions about the cover-up. But here was Pam Bondi's answer to what we should be talking about instead of transparency, accountability, and justice. Her thoughts. I'll show you for you. Speaks for itself. She thinks we should be covered.
They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, over 3 million. And Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over, the Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing.
We're laughing because we're not on CNBC, sweetie. I mean, what is that? Tara, I think the Dow is really important, but you're in a room with survivors. Some of them were children at the time of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's child sex trafficking ring. Criminals, hardened criminals. And, she's the person who said, quote, I've got the list on my desk. So the whole befuddlement that she likes to play there, Tara, about why people are asking her about it. She made binders. She made really big binders. Yeah. I don't even know that you can get them at the office supply store. They seem special orders, so thick. She made binders and handed them out to right-wing, pundits, people in the right-wing world after she said on a Fox News interview that she had, quote, the list on her desk. And then she brought the right-wing pundits into the White House, and she met with them in the Roosevelt Room, and she handed out these massive binders. So she's the one that pumped this story up until she face planted. I mean, what is she trying to do, if you can figure that one out?
I have no idea, Nicole. I mean, it's really heartbreaking to see what happened today, because I remember around the time that the files were going to be released the first time in December, when we were supposed to get all the Epstein files. That was the actual deadline. I remember one of the survivors telling me, we have a meeting with Pam Bondi, and they were really excited about it. I mean, they have been grasping at straws, wanting some sort of vindication, some sort of support, hoping, praying, believing that maybe this administration will do the right thing, despite being shown along the way that that is not what they are interested in. And, you know, I was told, and I asked, well, can I report on this, that you want to meet with Pam Bondi? And they said, no. We want to keep it low key because we want her to follow through. We really want to meet with her. We want to make our case. They truly believe that if they could look her in the eye, they could reach in there and grab something human. They really did. And they really believe that to this day. And that's why they still go on Capitol Hill every single time. And they stand there. And honestly, that was a humiliation for her, really. But that was a horrible experience for them to have to stand there and look at her back. Well, she snarled and sounded like Amy Poehler from that SNL skit, like, you losers. She sounded like some mean girl when we're talking about child predation. It's so off script. It's so weird, like Tim said. This is a very odd thing to witness. It's a disgusting thing to witness. And you have people there who really believed in her at one time. And of course, she stood them up. She stood them up, and she continues to. And that was exactly why they were asked. Have any of you met with Pam Bondi? Why have they not met with the Attorney General? This is the biggest case in this country, in the world right now. Why are they not sitting in the FBI's headquarters right now, sitting down for more 302s?
Yeah. Thomas Massie, another Republican, chalks it up to incompetence. Let me show you that, Christy.
The recourse, and I keep reminding the folks at DOJ this, is that the next Attorney General can bring charges against them for breaking the law. I think that's what's compelled them to produce 3 million documents. And now they're claiming that it's incompetence. Like, their defense today is incompetence for why they haven't given us all of the documents.
I mean, this is sort of where the rubber meets the road. This is a Republican congressman who says that the next Attorney General, after the Trump chapter is over, quote, can bring charges against them for breaking the law. The law requires them to turn over all the files.
Yeah, I don't think we should be waiting that long. I don't think that's the answer. This Congress now can take action. There are committees that can file a lawsuit and just say, you are not complying with the law. We want you to release the files, and here are all the ways you're not in compliance, and go to a judge and try and get some relief now. Not years from now, now. That's what they should be doing.